Before I get started a little bit, in the keynote, there were a lot of talk about how paradigm shift is happening. We heard a lot about how customers should do things differently, how I should do things differently, how vendors should do things differently. And we heard a lot about cool and sexy technology in all the presentations. I'm coming from a telecom company, so for me, it's not enough to have a sexy technology there. For me, it needs to scale. It needs to work in an enterprise environment. It needs to make sense from an economic perspective. It needs to service the business. And actually, one thought that I had during the whole conference, I'm going to be the first person here on the stage to talk about GDPR, because it had to be compliant with GDPR. We had to make sure to protect our customers. Personal data protection is a very, very hot topic today. I mean, we are in May, 17? And May 25th is the deadline for being compliant. So it's a very hot topic. I'm actually surprised that I'm the first one talking about it. Also with having Facebook, with Cambridge Analytics there, there should be a lot of more talk about that. So anyways, all of these things needs to be taken into consideration when we are working in an enterprise and when I'm talking about data lake evolution at Magyar Telekom, because we have to make sure that all these things are in sync and it works together well. Before I dive in, I was thinking a lot because in the description of my presentation, I'm going to talk about challenges, what's needed for making a successful data lake in an enterprise. One key thing that you really need is a talented team. That's the bare minimum, and that's somehow you need to get it. Either buy it or have it inside your organization, but you need that talented team. And some of my colleagues are there. My talented team is sitting there in the crowds. So you guys are making this possible. And by the way, we are hiring, so here are my contact details. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well. So another thing that I heard in the keynote is you need to avoid Dead Star projects. This is our Dead Star project, by the way. We didn't avoid it. We had it for 2 years. One thing which is very true, and referring back to the keynote again, or the morning sessions, is you need to have baby steps first before you do your Dead Star project. You need to sell it up front that your company needs the Dead Star project. But for only one reason in an enterprise you need a Dead Star project is otherwise you will fall into the trap that the first bread pays for the bakery. You need to build a bakery first, and then you start producing bread. Now, you can have a kitchen when you produce your first bread, but that's not enterprise ready. But you need that to be able to sell the bakery. But sooner or later, you will need to build a bakery. So probably you already read the slide. This was our strategic project. You can name it as a Dead Star project. We named it Bingo. Actually, the logo, the O, resembles Dead Stars. No, it doesn't. We were aiming a lot of things to accomplish in one program. And one other thing what I refer back to, don't do the Dead Star project. Don't try to see it as a Dead Star waterfall project. You can have a Dead Star program with small building blocks in it, but have a clear mindset what you want to achieve at the end of the program. This is what we wanted to achieve at the end of the program. And from this conference perspective, the bottom line is the most important one, is to build the bakery. Basically establish the foundation of your future enterprise big data environment. So how did we get there? What was the first bread? Rewinding time back to 2014, and even before that, I mean, in telecom, we have, before this, 20-year history of doing data analytics in traditional data warehousing and all the traditional tools that we all know. So it was not coming as a hugely new thing. Yes, it's a new technology, but the way how you deal with data, that's not new. So going back in time, 2013, 14, big data fever, everybody is talking big data. Even now, everybody is talking big data, but back then, everybody was already talking big data. Even in our business, there were certain departments in marketing doing event-based churn prediction. We heard use cases here about churn. Yes, we did that. We were looking at social media, having a social media command center. We analyzed social media. Yes, we did that. We were doing location-based advertisement. Yes, we did that. And also we were doing DPI reporting, a little bit about that, because that was the spark that helped us sell the strategic program. That was the first bread that we cooked. So what it is about, we are back in 2014, and a telecom company really wants to understand that what is happening in my network, what people are using my network for, how many Viber feeds are going on there, how many Facebook searches are going on there, how many YouTube videos are looked at. So that's what you call DPI reporting. It's deep packet inspection. Nobody cares about, but from the telecom sector. But essentially what you have, and this is where we arrive to real big data numbers, because essentially what you have, 1.5 terabytes of raw data per day, which is like more than 4 billion records. Now, before 2014, what you did is you collected some amount from some days of worth of data. You called in a very expensive consulting company, and you asked them, hey, I want to understand what my customers are using my network. So you go away for 3 months, you do all your reporting stuff, you come back with a nice report, and finally I can understand what happened last year. Maybe useful, maybe not, but you spent a ton of money, you waited 3 months, and you have something which may worth or may not worth anything. So then we went back, okay, we can do this better. We went back to the traditional technologies because we knew that best. We did the aggregation logic there on 1 day worth of data, which took us 3 days. So have it as a continuous reporting. It might not make sense because you are already 3 days late. The second day is you are 6 days late. The third day you are 9 days late, minus the day that's spent. So it's not going to be sustainable. And this is the part where I mentioned you need talented people, because it's not a management decision what the guys did at that time. Basically what happened is that the guys went to the platform team and asked them that, do you have any spare hardware? We want to play with it. So give us what's already amortized, which worth 0 for a company. Give us all those hardware. The team set up a Hadoop cluster on that, which is hardware that's worth 0 to the company, and started to play with it. And basically what came out from basically this scrap metal environment is this number. That 1 day of data was aggregated in 15 seconds, which is sustainable. So from doing a thing in 3 months a year, you can do that online, pretty much. That's the power. And that was the spark, that was the bread that sells the bakery. Then I can go back to my first slide. Magically, strategy program happens, management buys in. Obviously, you need the management there to move away all the obstacles from the team so they can really do the innovation. That's mainly my job, to make sure that my people can work. And then we arrived here. This is 2016. So we arrived to a point that we have our enterprise data lake. We have various data sources. We are producing tons of insight more than 100 reports, analytics inside, that basically provides real outcome to the business, which then drives value. So the whole loop closes. You can see the metrics there, that how much worth of data is coming in per day. Obviously, storage is always a problem when you are in the hundreds of terabyte space. So you continuously improve the environment. Okay, so the other main challenge is that you already have your data warehouse word there. And you are building something new. You have to make sure that these two things are somehow connected and integrated. You cannot build a separate word. It's not sustainable in an enterprise environment. So this is our silver bullet back in 2016, that we made sure that the two systems are closely integrated, and we have one common BI layer which is trying to hide from the business users what's under the hood. So this way, your business user doesn't really know about if they are looking the product or the solution of a big data use case or a traditional data warehouse use case. They are looking at insights. They are looking at dashboards, basically. And by the way, I hate the expression big data use case. There is no such thing, in my opinion, as a big data use case. There are business use cases where the solution may involve big data technology, but that's not a big data use case. That's a technology enablement. The other key challenge that you have to make sure is how the IT and how the IT people and data people are working together. So if you, and that's the next slide. So if you are about to look at an IT guy and try to figure out how to do this, they are going to come up with this. Have development, test, and live. So hands up, how many data scientists are there in the audience? How many of you are doing data science in a development environment, on development data, or even in test environment on test data? So how can you do that? How can you build a deep learning model on test data? How can you prep that data in a way that it's going to give you the same analytical framework that what you have in production? In my opinion, that's mission impossible. So we have to come up with a smart way how to make sure that from an IT perspective you are safe and you follow IT principles of development, test, and production. And also, on the other hand, how do you enable data scientists' work? Have access to the data, be able to create new models, be able to build machine learning on production quality data. So we came up with a way. And this is resembling that way. The other thing, I deliberately blurred this page out so you cannot read it, because then probably I'm going to be fired if you can read it. But I just wanted to show you, when I'm talking about our big data environment, I'm talking about this. This is our big data environment from an infrastructure perspective. At the presentations before me, not too many real numbers were there. I wanted to do this exercise that add up all the data content that all presenters are talking about in their use cases. I sketched up, I don't know, 35 gigabytes, hundreds of gigabytes. Actually, there was one use case with 100 of terabyte. But beside that use case, that one single use case, if I add up all the use cases that were mentioned on this conference before, I can have it in this one in memory. And when I'm pointing here, this one, I don't mean the whole thing. I mean only this server. So that's the environment what we are sitting on in telecom. The other challenge, and you might pick up here, is that our environment needs to be full secure. Everything is Kerberized. Deep Kerberization is there. We had to make sure that none of the personal data is touched by anyone. Basically, there is full anonymization in the whole environment, and we make sure that when we load data into the environment, we make sure that anonymization engines are running and we are masking all the personal data. So, and that's actually the enablement for data scientists to be able to work on data, because they don't work on the sensitive data, but they work on production data. We make sure that we decouple the sensitive part from the non-sensitive part. That's very important, since we are in May and we have like 10 days, not even 10 days. One other thing that I wanted to really mention here is I'm going to talk about use cases now, but I hate the word use case. When a vendor comes to me and tells me that, hey, I have this wonderful big data use case, do this project, I always have a side conversation with them that I don't want a use case. I don't want a project. I'm leading an organization, and I want it as a continuous organizational growth in the company, not just a single use case that we deliver and everybody forgets about that. We have a success. Hey, yeah, we did a churn prediction model which predicts churn, I don't know, 95% accuracy. Then everybody goes away, and I'm left with something that will degrade, and the model accuracy will go down dramatically after 2 months, and then I will throw it out in the trash can. That's not what I want. I want a sustainable way of doing business, turning my business into the data-driven mode, which is part of their business as usual work. I don't want to deliver a project. It's like it's like talking about it like, I don't know, having sex. So when you are coming to me and selling me a use case, that's about losing your virginity. That's the first time doing it. It may be a project for you, but for me, I want to be mature enough that it's part of my life. So if you feel the difference, then you understand what I'm talking about. I hate big data projects and use cases. But still, I'm going to talk about use cases. That's for us means the first time when we did that. So a couple of examples, then I will shut up, and I don't see that. Yeah, there is the clock. So then I will shut up and let you ask questions from me. So one use case is analyzing Sziget Festival, which is a pretty cool use case. Basically, we need to understand what's happening on a festival, from which countries, visitors we have there who are using our network. We need to understand how they use it. We need to understand what kind of phones they are using there. Again, we are not after anything personal. We are after that how we can service our customers better. So it's all about, if somebody comes from a country with a shitty phone, which is not working properly on our network, then we need to somehow fix that on our end. Otherwise, he will be pissed about Magyar Telekom. It's even worse if it's our customer and not just the visitor. So that's why we do these type of things. We do operational analytics. Obviously, we are a profit-oriented company, so we are using big data technologies for targeting our advertisements and product to be able to put on the market better products, which are better covering our customer base. One thing is, you remember, probably nobody is using that anymore, but if you remember back in 2015 or 16, I don't remember well, Pokemon was a big hype. Everybody was playing Pokemon. We picked it up on our network that what is considered Pokemon usage, so we can understand who are the Pokemon users in the community. which is the demographic attributes of a Pokemon user, and then you can use it for marketing purposes after proper segmentation. One other cool example, and is this use case, which is real-time anomaly detection. It's pretty cool, actually, if you look under the hood, because anybody is talking about AI in a conference, they are talking about deep learning, all these fancy neural network technologies, all those kind of fancy words and buzzwords. But when you get to the project and you start executing, it's going to be about traditional advanced analytic methods and maybe a little bit of neural network, but more like traditional things. When you get to implementation and figure out, okay, what I'm going to put into production, that you end up with maximum a decision tree or linear regression, nothing fancier. That's what you put into production. This went beyond. So this is the real stuff. Basically, what we are doing here is we are collecting metrics from our whole IT landscape, which consists hundreds of application servers, etc. And we are collecting CPU load, CPU usage, hard disk I/O, memory usage, anything that's measurable on an IT system we are collecting in. We are doing anomaly detection on it. And basically where you end up with is before a server crashes or an application crashes, before that 12 minutes, you know that it's going to be crashed. I let that message sink in because if somebody from IT is sitting in an organization and maybe in an operational role, if I can give you a dashboard that's going to show you the 12-minute future, that what's going to break and what's going to turn red, that's really powerful. And we have that. So it's pretty cool to work at Telecom at the moment. The other really fancy thing is real-time online personalization, which is making sure that we offer on our web shop the right product to the right people. Obviously, there is a cookie policy there. You submit there. And basically, what's happening under the hood, that whatever you are clicking on the screen, that's funneled through Hadoop. We are figuring out, OK, based on what you were looking at, we should offer you this phone, because you might like the new iPhone. Then it goes back to the web page, and in the next session, you will see that on the advertisement banner. It's pretty cool. Obviously, I was talking about improving user experience. We are measuring our whole network and figuring out what's going well, what's not going so well. Is there any patterns that we can detect and to see what are the things that's breaking for customers, when are we irritating customers, because we are trying to learn that and trying to avoid that in the future. So since I'm getting a little bit out of time, I'm going to open this up for questions. So please ask, don't be shy. Otherwise, I will continue. No, seriously, any questions out there? Yeah, there in the back. How many nodes are we using? So we made the choice of not having small nodes, many small nodes. We have few powerful nodes. So we have only 10 data nodes, but the specs of those data nodes are really powerful. Any other questions out there? Yeah, there. Yes, we do that, but it's not big data for me. Because we call it automation. where basically you are trying to figure out or process optimization, where you are trying to figure out what's working on that process, but we don't need Hadoop for that. We are using some of the technologies, but we don't. It doesn't fall under my umbrella. But as a company, yes, we do that. Any other? Yeah, here.
What do you use in addition to Hadoop?
So there are tons of technologies. I assume you are asking only the analytic domain, right?
Yeah.
So next to Hadoop, we are doing a lot of native Python scripting, not just Spark. So we have a, where is the Cloudera guy? He was sitting there. So we are using Cloudera Hadoop. This is for advertising you guys. And so on Cloudera Hadoop, we are doing mainly Impala and Spark. And it's basically Python-based Spark. What we have, and next to that we have a tons of Python codes. Obviously we have the traditional data warehousing technologies. We have some SAS, we have Tableau for visualization and data discovery. We are not doing any R. We made a choice to go for Python. Now we are experimenting things like TensorFlow, GPU, and the cool stuff. But that's not in production. Sure. There. Then I'm sure not. So. I need extremely talented people, but you don't need many. So you need handful of talented guys. And did I mention I'm hiring talented guys? So you don't need a big team. Yeah. So thank you for that question, because then I can elaborate who we are looking for. So in a team like this, you need for sure platform engineers who are able to put together the Hadoop environment, connect with all the enterprise, other enterprise systems. You need tons of data engineers, because somebody mentioned that 80% of their time in a project went on basically gathering the data, cleansing the data, stitching the data. All the data engineering worked. You need data scientists, and that's always a debate on where the data scientists should sit. Should they sit on the business? Should they sit in the IT? We made the choice data scientists sit in the business, but then I need an IT data scientist, which I call applied machine learning specialist. I didn't come up with a better name. You need people who are good at data storytelling. Nobody mentioned that here before, but that's an extremely hard job to do. Explain to the business in layman terms that what the data scientist came up with, how that translates into business value. That sometimes is mission impossible. So these are the key roles, and I don't want to offend anyone, so if I missed out people, sorry for that. So essentially that's the team. Plus you need management. You always need management. Yeah, there in the back. So for us, it's mainly Cognos and Tableau. So we have like Hadoop itself and Impala, mainly on that. That's one. We have the data warehouse with Oracle, and we have all sorts of RDBMSs like Postgres, MS SQL, and stuff like that. There is no single technology, and I hate technology locks as well. That's the third thing to mention here that I hate. What else? I'm going to be kicked out from the room probably. No, I'm not. So you can go ahead, ask questions. Okay, if there are no more questions, then thank you, everyone.